Hello, interneters. Have you ever wanted to play a game, but because of a gimmick, just to try it out, even though you know the said gimmick will most likely be a letdown? Well, I have. Um, and the game in question that we'll be taking a look at today is Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Before I get too far ahead of myself and piss some of you off, and I know I already have with my previous comment. I know the game is actually good, and a matter of fact, it was considered one of the best games in 2006. So I apologize. The gimmick I was talking about is the motor combat part. It's a Mario Kart inspired kart racer that uses the characters from the Mortal Kombat roster in your player. It has power-ups. For example, if you're watching the video, you'll notice my Scorpion kart has the I can't remember the name of the move, but where he throws out the harpoon and says, "Come here." Except when he throws out the harpoon, he says, "Get out of here." In this case, so it's kind of fun. The idea of a cutesy kart game using these characters for the roster was so ridiculous, it made me want to pick up the game. But there was no way it was going to match the level of a Mario Kart, which I was currently playing, especially since this was just going to be like an included minigame. Now, Mortal Kombat Armageddon is another recent pickup for me. I know it came out 10 years ago, and I know I wanted to pick it up, but I wasn't collecting, and I knew it wasn't a title that I was going to get a ton of play for me. Not a huge, even I think this is my third fighting game I'm reviewing. I'm only 10 games in. Not a huge fighting game enthusiast. So I wasn't going to get a ton of use, so it was hard for me to spend retail on something like that. I'm glad I have it now, and also fair warning if you're watching the video, I am not a skilled player of Mortal Kombat, so it will be very apparent as you're watching. However, back in the olden days, I wasn't half bad. I would actually rock out the very first game of the franchise in the real arcades. Yes, you heard me. I actually played games in a real arcade. That's how old of a gamer I am. So now that I get some of that out of the way, let's talk about the story of the game. So apparently, the fighters, both good and bad, have become too powerful, and for some reason, the realms can't even. Oh my God, I can't even. So to prevent total destruction of the worlds, there was a safeguard put in place by the gods. So I'll explain during the opening cutscene. So the safeguard is a pyramid, apparently, that just rises right out of the ground under the fighters. There's a nice little flame on top. And warriors see this fire and think, wow, that's pretty. I gotta go get me some of that. So they all fight each other, climbing this pyramid, trying to get to it. And oh snap, it turns out the flame is actually the safeguard and is going to destroy all the fighters. It's the new end boss, you could say. So I guess it works. Storyline really doesn't do it for me, but do you really need a storyline for this sort of game? But it does give a reason for a different end boss. So that part is good, right? I don't know. The storyline doesn't take anything away from the game. So no, I'm excited about it. I like the game. Features. We don't always talk about the features in games. Usually we just touch upon a few things, but this game's got quite a few options in modes of play, so I thought I'd just touch upon what we have here. So, real straightforward. You've got your arcade mode. Arcade mode is you select your character, you go to your location, and you fight through the tiers of enemy, just like you have in all the other Mortal Kombats, whether you played on the console or in the arcades. It'll be the most familiar mode to players. Also, the second player can join in and play player versus player. And you can earn coins here as you execute moves and defeat enemies. The coins can then be used in the crypt to purchase items, as well as in the character creation for like costumes and things. Side note, everything that starts with a cuss sound, whether it's a C or not, has been altered in the manual to start with the letter K. It's nothing new. They've been doing that for a long time. I just thought it was fun. Anyway, next mode is endurance mode. You fight through as many opponents as you can. The twist, you only have the 1 health bar. Now, as you're fighting through and you defeat a couple of swarms, you'll get some health back via power-ups. But still, you just get the 1 life. I'm not usually big on the endurance mode myself. I really just enjoy player versus player the most in these style of games, especially if it's a fairly equal fight. And then the third mode is versus mode, where you just player versus player, and that's it. So nothing really different there. Then you get a practice mode, which you'll be familiar with. So of course you can practice with the character. There's no timer here. The button presses show on the screen as you use them, and your enemy's life will fill once depleted, so you can just keep going. You don't have to stop and start over. Excuse me. Another mode is create a fighter. I'm just gonna take a sip here. Sorry about that. Create a fighter. This is you can make your own fighter guy or gal. I have 2 warnings here. No matter what you do, your fighter will still look like a cross between an 80s hairband and an 80s wrestler. Not necessarily a bad thing, but that's what's going to happen. Also, for some reason, when you select your gender, and this was really big in the early 2000s, and this caught me off guard because I didn't expect it. If you swap genders from male to female to ladies, there's a real quick instant of boob physics that show up. All of a sudden, you get your guy on the screen, you say, I want to play a lady, switch to lady, all of a sudden switches to lady, and in doing so, the lady's chest does a little bit of a jiggle for a split second. Thought it was crazy, so I had gone back to make sure. No, yeah, it's definitely there. And if you go back to the men, or the male version from the female, there is no boob jiggle for the male. Now, there's no reason for a boob jiggle here, so I don't know why it's there. The person isn't actually moving, so I just thought I'd, fair warning for people who want that, and then also a fair warning for the perverts out there who think it's amazing. I just thought it was odd. Anyway, you can dress for success here. A pretty standard customization screen. Well, not as detailed as today's games. It was a big deal back then. It was 10 years old. Also, you can use the coins you've earned to purchase locked equipment and styles. So basically, hairstyles, you can change your eyes, your skin color, you got boots, pants, belts, underwear, bat wings. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. It's pretty extensive, especially for such an older game. And then let's see here. We have a conquest mode. Conquest is a quest mode where you play as Tavern. No, you're not playing as a bar. You are playing as a character named Tavern. I don't know. Anyway, it's up to you to save the realm. You've been sent on a quest by your dad, because that's what dads do. Go on this quest and save the world. Alright. You travel in a 3D environment, finding all kinds of goodies and progressing the storyline. When you encounter an enemy, it doesn't stay in that 3D environment. It switches back to the, I guess, 2.5D. Anyway, it switches back to the normal fighting style format that you would see in all the other modes. And as you progress, you'll find chests and things, the things you unlock, karting levels, costume pieces, things of that nature. It's kind of a neat twist. Mortal Kombat, that's the Mario Kart knockoff. It's not great, but there is fun to be had here. So try it, and when you're doing that, Don't take it seriously. Just enjoy it. Make sure you have a buddy to have a good time. It's going to be a lot more fun with a second player. Then we have the crypt. This is not so much a mode as is a more of an option screen. When you go into the crypt, there's a large, kind of like a large room, and it's got a bunch of skulls on the wall. There's 280 something, almost 300 to unlock. You can use the coins to unlock the content. Things like characters, you can unlock levels, costumes, production art, movies. Makes the great game more replayable, and it makes it also feel bigger. Again, there's a lot of content for such an old game. Also, side note, pro tip, make sure you create a profile, otherwise you won't be able to access really anything other than arcade mode. I don't know why you need a profile if you can save the game. I don't understand the profile system. It seems odd to me, but it's a type of save function, and it's password coded, which, you know, gotta protect those Mortal Kombat games. So anyway, impressive amount of content. How does it look? The game, this came out for the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, and the Wii. There was almost a year gap between the Wii release and the release of the other two, Wii being the latter release. The Wii was the only one of that generation actually that got it, which was odd too. So Xbox, PlayStation 2 got it, GameCube did not. Wii got it, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 did not. Kind of a weird, I don't understand it. Anyway, there's almost no difference visually between the varieties. Let's see, if you have to choose, here's a couple of the pros. The Xbox will output 720p. The textures are all the same though. You're going to get slightly less jaggy, so you're not really going to see a difference other than jaggy. So on larger televisions, you'll maybe notice. I'm running a 55-inch. I didn't notice the jaggies at 480p really even. So I guess it probably depends on your television and how you're outputting it. The Wii gets RGB output. I mean, so does the Xbox. Both are superior to the PlayStation 2 visually for the output. Some players seem to think also the Wii has the best frame rate out of the three. I'm not sure. I haven't played it on the others, so that's just kind of hearsay as far as, you know, my personal experience. The Wii does get an extra character, not available on the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox, which is pretty cool. PlayStation 2 and the Xbox had, or if it had, do not have anymore, had online matches. So at the time, maybe that was better, but considering you don't have that anymore, it's kind of a moot point. So for the Wii, you potentially get better frame rate and an extra character. I would call that a win for the Wii, but that's me. I'm also notorious for being a Nintendo fanboy. It is what it is. That aside, the visuals are good. The character models are pretty detailed, good polygons, you know, pretty smooth looking. And the textures aren't what we're used to today, but they're clean, they get the job done, there's no confusion, you can really see what's what. I would say visually, everything is well and dandy. I don't know how else to explain it. I think maybe I'm just tired. The audio, everything here is good. It's all here. The great sound effects are all over. There's not a ton in the ways of ambience, not that I noticed anyway. But when you're struggling in a Mortal Kombat, who has time to pay attention to this sort of thing? Nothing really new or standout here, but it does a very good job. The soundtrack itself is a good time, and yes, it deserves its place on your Zune or whatever other archaic MP3 player you're using. Yes, you should put this on your playlist. It's fast, aggressive pacing, is great for a workout soundtrack or to keep you awake for your drive, although if you're on the highway, may not want to listen to the soundtrack, as you may find your foot becoming very heavy. Anyway, this soundtrack may not have the depth of some of the other soundtracks in my other reviews, but I don't always. The depth of the soundtrack doesn't always make it carry over to a playlist because more the pacing and the quality. And this does see the quality, but the pacing is really the bigger thing for me. So, there's some motivation with this. So, anyway, it'll work you just fine into a bloodlust to bang out them reps in the gym. So, yes, throw it on the playlist. Rambling a bit on this one. Controls. Welcome to the Wii, where you have a bajillion options for your game. One of the boasts of this game, of course, was the waggle action. The hitting early in the Wii's lifeline, the hype was still real for all things motion. And while it's neat, I'd say skip the motion controls. It's neat until you get the floor mopped with your face. Unless the floor is really dirty and you need to have it mopped with your face, I would say skip the motion controls. Now, if you look at the back of the case, it makes you think you can use the Wiimote, or the Wiimote with nunchuck, or the classic controller. That is not correct. The correct options are the Wiimote with the nunchuck, the classic controller, and boom, surprise, the GameCube controller. Why would you not list the GameCube controller as an option, son of a... So, I'm in the waggle hater camp on this one. Skip the Wiimote in nunchuck combo. I don't know how much I could stress that. As a matter of fact, I would say skip the classic controller. The weird shoulder button layout, the placement doesn't work well. Not for me anyway. I mean, you really got to reach far in to get those secondary shoulder buttons. So I would say use your Pro controller. Or go get one. If you don't have a Pro controller at this point in time, go spend $10. Get yourself a Pro controller. It just makes sense. Most gamers are going to find this as the best option, as the button layout mimics the closest to like a PlayStation or a modern Xbox controller, or even the Wii U Pro controller. Now, I prefer the GameCube controller. It is ridiculously comfortable. It just is. It's the most comfortable controller ever made. It might as well be a pillow. Now, I didn't mind the button layout. It will be confusing for people not familiar with the GameCube controller. But it didn't bother me at all. I use the A button primarily, and that's the biggest button. I'm not a skilled Mortal Kombat-y, so button mashing was my mode of choice here. And it worked to an extent. Now, the other option for the GameCube controller that I like, or the other feature, is this is a fighting game, so I will take the zero lag of a hardwired controller, especially when I'm playing against somebody on the couch. You know, somebody here, not a computer. That way there's no discussion of, oh, it was the controller, or this or that, or you're hardwired, I'm wireless. No, everyone's hardwired here. Everyone gets a GameCube controller. No fighting. Everybody sucks the same amount. So, there's a ton of content. The visuals are great. The story's a bit meh. The sound is fun. There's a crazy weird-ass card game. The controls, if you use the right option, are great and exact. So do I like the game? Would I recommend it? Well, right now the game is averaging prices of about $12. Most physical locations I've seen it at are about $15 to $20. The price trends, they haven't changed since the end of 2009, other than a few odd spikes. So I don't think this is a title that's going to jump in value. And it's a really fair price for all the content and quality of the game you're getting. So if you like Mortal Kombat, or maybe you're just like me and you really, I mean, I do like Mortal Kombat, but I really wanted a shot at that card game. For the going price, you're not going to go wrong. I'd say jump on it. That's it. It's a good game. Not for the younger audiences, obviously, being a Mortal Kombat game. That's all I have to say about that. So thank you for listening, and remember to surf safe and just say no to spam.